Hello and a very warm welcome to Business 360. I'm Ritu Singh and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Rupee sinks to a historic low against the dollar after the biggest single-day fall in over a month. One US dollar now costs more than 83 rupees. The Indian currency has lost 2% this month and 12% so far in 2022. Stock markets end in the green even as the rupee plunges to a new low. Sensex reclaims 59,000 despite some gains getting trimmed in late trade. Nestle reports 18% quarterly domestic revenue growth, the highest in the last 5 years, but inflation continues to eat into the margins. UltraTech posts a mixed bag. Revenue rises 16%, but profits drop 42% and margins shrink. Vodafone Idea struggles continue as it loses subscribers for 17 straight months. The company's board will meet later this week to consider issuing convertible debentures to a vendor. The insurance regulator is unlikely to approve the valuation methodology for the second leg of the Axis Bank Max Life transaction. The regulator is of the view that Axis Bank must buy the balance 7% stake it is due to acquire in Max Life at a uniform and fair market value. Prime Minister Modi speaks on the day of the Defence Expo in Gandhinagar, says the event showcasing products from 1,300 Indian companies has caused inconvenience to some countries, but several nations with positive mindset are joining hands with India. Netflix beats expectations in the third quarter, adds more than 2 million subscribers, much higher than the forecast of 1 million, also reveals new plans to crack down on password sharing. Veteran leader Mallikarjun Kharge wins the Congress presidential elections against Shashi Tharoor with 88% of the valid votes. Kharge would become the first non-Gandhi to head the Grand Old Party in 24 years. A convict in the Bilkis Bano gang rape case who was recently released was accused of assaulting a woman with the intention of outraging her modesty while on parole. An FIR was also filed against another convict. Now, this contradicts Gujarat government's claim that the convicts are being released for good behavior. The AAP government in Delhi bans firecrackers and announces stringent punishments. Purchasing and bursting of crackers will be punishable with up to 6 months in jail and a penalty of 200 rupees. Our top story this evening, the rupee is at a record low. One US dollar will now cost more than 83 rupees as of today. The Indian currency has lost 2% this month and 12% so far in 2022. The slide today was the biggest single-day fall that we've seen in over a month. Now, Jayesh Mehta, the Managing Director and Country Treasurer of Bank of America, is with us to analyze what really caused this fall today. Jayesh, thank you very much for being with us here today. First, we've crossed that psychological mark of 83. What really happened in market today to cause that sudden fall?
So I think market was very well anchored, at 80 to 40. Just like earlier, we were at 79, 90. At 80 to 40, it was anchored. Last 2 days, dollar index was slowly creeping up, but we were anchored well at 80 to 40. And today, when whenever there is a level which is anchored and then you don't find support, people try to find the new level. And that's what actually happened, we didn't see much selling by National Bank at 80 to 40. And that's the reason people try to test the new levels. Of course, towards the end, you had exporters also coming and selling, but that's almost like 60 paisa higher. But definitely, we'll see that now trying to find the new anchor level. So that's where we are in the zone at this juncture. Of course, we had been holding on to certain levels at a time. So I would still say it is more like a speed breaker rather than putting any direction by central bank. It's more like a speed breaker, the kind to arrest the volatility so that it does not go one way, one direction in one single day. So, but whenever the anchor level is broken, you will see some excitement for a day or two.
But Jayesh, what will cause the next trigger from here? We've breached the 83 mark. What else is there to watch out for that will impact the movement of the rupee over the next few days?
So I would say next 2-3 months, it's going to be completely volatile, right? So and there is no fundamental, even the finance minister says it's nothing to do with rupee per se. It is what more the global headwinds, how strong the dollar gets, how high the dollar yield gets. So that will all determine for next 3 months where the currency for not only us, most of the emerging market will behave in next 3 months. But if you look at maybe 6 months, 1 year down the line, we are quite confident on rupee, the way our macros are panning out. But at least next 3 months, it's just a number, right? So it's like it can go either way. It can move, swing either side, one rupee plus, minus, either side it can really move. But it's really difficult to predict the three global events which nobody knows how it's going to pan out.
Well, we don't really know, but if I were still to ask you, where do you see the rupee settling over the near term, say beyond this next 3 to 4 months?
Next 3 to 4 months, anybody can pick any number. That's fine. I would say I would rather attempt maybe next 1 year. Definitely, we will appreciate. We'll go back to that 80 anchor, but that is next 1 year, maybe next financial year, first quarter next financial year.
Yeah.
Until that, we'll have to live with the world volatility.
Well, we will have to live with the volatility. But Jayesh, are you worried at all? How much anchoring can the Reserve Bank of India do with the kind of forex levels that it currently has? Is there any concern on that front as well? It intervenes for the volatility, of course, but how much anchoring can it really do?
No, so it's not really that you need to really spend too much. It is just slowing down the thing, right? Because when you have negative sentiments, people, if you look at, like, if they had not anchored 79.90, we would have been 83, 84 2 months back, right? So from that perspective, it is just, kind of not overplay. Yes, if we depreciate, you have to move with the world. You cannot not move with the world, but then don't bring it to an extreme level, right? There were some numbers that quoting 90 also when we were anchored at 79.90.
Yeah, that's right. Jayesh, thank you very much for helping explain that sharp fall in the rupee that we saw towards the end of the trading day. Thank you very much, Jayesh, for your time. Now, moving on, stock markets, they also managed to eke out some of the gains despite the sharp fall in the rupee. Sensex and Nifty did come under pressure in late trade, but they ended the day in the green. Now, Sensex has reclaimed 59,000 after gaining nearly 150 points, and Nifty gained about 25 points in trade. Banks and Midcap also ended in the green. A quick look at some of the other headlines. Concor has announced that the government is organising roadshows with potential investors as a part of the divestment process. Now, these roadshows will take place from the 19th to the 21st of October. The government is attempting to attract private investors to purchase 31% stake in Concor, which accounts for almost 8,000 crore rupees. Piramal Pharma shares hit lower circuit after listing today. The demerged entity from Piramal Enterprises was listed at 200 rupees per share. Now, speaking to CNBC-TV18, Ajay Piramal said that they are happy with Carlyle's shareholding and are focused on building existing businesses. Listen in.
Carlyle holds 20% in the listed entity. Any plans of them probably increasing stake or diluting it from current levels?
I think we've been very happy with Carlyle as a partner, and we're going to hope to continue the relationship with them.
Any change in?
So they are not going to increase their stake, and I don't see them decreasing their stake.
In more news from the last read, India First Life Insurance is likely to file its IPO papers with SEBI by November. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the company will raise close to 2,000 crore rupees via the IPO via the offer for sale route. Formed in 2009, India First is one of the youngest insurance companies and is aiming for a valuation of 9,000 crore rupees as per sources. Let's also focus on the earnings space then. Nestle India reported a strong set of numbers in the quarter gone by. The 18% growth in domestic revenue is its highest in the last 5 years. Mangalam Malu joins us now with the latest. Mangalam, take us through the fine print of the numbers that have just been released.
Well, Nestle reported a top-line beat in their third quarter of calendar 2022, with the revenues growing around 18.3% as against street expectations of around 13 to 14% growth. And that's actually trickled down to the bottom line as well. So the revenue at just shy of 4,600 crores is above street expectations of just a little less than 4,400 odd crores. EBITDA coming in a little over 1,000 crores against a poll of, little under 1,000 odd crores. And that means that the net profit at 670 odd crores is above street expectations of 650 crores as well. The domestic business led their revenue growth. 18.3% is the growth that we saw, and that's the fastest that we've seen the company grow in at least the last 5 years. And export sales too increased by around 15.7 odd percent. The company says the entire growth was broad-based double-digit growth led by volumes as well as mix evolution, and they've seen growth strong in specifically in large metro cities, even as smaller towns are catching up. The only fly in the ointment for the numbers this time around would be margins coming in at 22.1% as against expectations of 22.7%, and that's because gross margins have continued to dip for Nestle, and at 52.8%, they're at a multi-quarter low, if not the lowest ever for the company. However, on that as well, the management tried to soothe the frayed nerves. They're saying that early signs of stability in edible oils as well as packaging materials is what they are seeing, so that could support the margins going forward, even as prices of fresh milk, green coffee as well as fuels will continue to remain firm. For Nestle, the stock has underperformed this year and trading at around 61, 62 times. Let's see whether this beat on the top line is enough for the street to take a look at Nestle once again, primarily because they're also going to soon get the pet care business into their fold.
All right, Mangalam, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining in. Now, in other earnings, cement major UltraTech reported a mixed bag in the second quarter. Profits were down 42% compared to the same period last year, even though it was largely in line with street expectations. Revenue growth was over 16%, which was above estimates again. But EBITDA was down 13%, with margins contracting from more than 22% last year to just over 13%. UltraTech also saw its debt rise by 50% from 5,500 crore rupees to nearly 8,400 crore rupees due to rise in working capital and growth capex. In some global news, a spike in cost of living, costlier food prices and unaffordable energy costs. Major economies in Europe are currently grappling with an inflation crisis that has sparked major protests. Sanjay Suri gets us this report.
Inflation is hitting home across Europe, and it's hitting home hard. So many countries that have for long been metaphors for prosperity and plenty, France, Germany, Britain, are seeing runaway inflation almost, and people are struggling to cope. France has seen massive strikes across the country on Tuesday, people demanding more wages to deal with inflation and the rising cost of living. Germany has seen protests in Berlin as inflation reaches almost 9%. And just today, in Britain, inflation has officially crossed 10.1%. This is now hitting food primarily, and that's where it hurts most. It's hitting the prices of milk, cereals, bread, and bread is such a metaphor for basic sufficiency in living right across Europe and right across the West. This is now a huge problem, both for governments, of course, and for people who are struggling to cope. And it's not just food, it's energy costs. They are going through the roof. In Britain, we've had reports of people switching on their heating later than they would otherwise, and it's not even winter yet. And winter across Europe is severe. If this kind of price rise continues, where the energy costs continue to soar at this level, coupled with inflation and the rising cost of food and near static wages, because wages are not being raised for fear that they would then fuel inflation. This is quite a bind now that Europe is in. Governments are struggling to find policies to mitigate this. There are projections that inflation already high will go yet higher next year, and in Britain it is officially projected to cross 13%. Independent groups are saying it will be more like 18%, and that is something that is bringing food poverty and energy poverty right across Britain and right across many countries in Western Europe.
All right, so that is Sanjay Suri reporting on the European inflation crisis. On that note, we have to take a short break, but up next, veteran leader Mallikarjun Kharge wins the Congress presidential elections against Shashi Tharoor with 88% of the valid votes. Details on that and more when we return. Welcome back. Here's the big national story we're tracking today. Mallikarjun Kharge will be the first non-Gandhi to lead the Congress party in 24 years. The veteran leader beat Shashi Tharoor in the Congress presidential polls, bagging 88% of the valid votes. Parikshit Luthra gets us the latest from the Congress headquarters in New Delhi.
As expected, Mallikarjun Kharge has been elected as the president of the Congress party. The election process has concluded. Mallikarjun Kharge got almost 90% of the votes. It was being said that Kharge's victory is almost a foregone conclusion. The pictures from the Congress party office right now, celebrations. You've got NSUI workers, other members of the Congress party celebrating. Many senior leaders are now in the process of congratulating Mallikarjun Kharge. Even Team Tharoor has conceded defeat, and Shashi Tharoor taking to Twitter to congratulate Mallikarjun Kharge, saying that the Nehru-Gandhi family has a special place in the hearts of Congress workers, and he too will continue working with Mallikarjun Kharge and his team to tackle all the challenges for the Congress party. Remember, there is significant amount of organizational change, organizational strengthening that the Congress party really needs. Many also believe that considering Mallikarjun Kharge had the strong backing of the Gandhi family, how much will really change? How much independence will he have to choose his own team to make those big reforms in the Congress party? So let's see what happens in the days to come. Yes, Shashi Tharoor had also raised questions of malpractices, voter fraud in this election, but those complaints have been taken back, and it seems that Camp Tharoor has also accepted this election result.
Congress president is the supreme authority in the Congress party, and every Congress member reports to that person. I'm very clear as far as my role is concerned. The Congress president will decide what my role is and how I am to be deployed.
Okay, now the families of potters in Dharavi's Kumbharwar settlement that make a living out of making earthen pots and lamps are pinning their hopes on this Diwali, making up for 2 years of lost business because of the pandemic. But inflation and unseasonal rains could play spoil sport. Shilpa Ranipeta speaks to the potters on how they're gearing up for their peak season sale.
These narrow lanes of Dharavi are home to a century-old settlement of hundreds of families of potters. All the earthen pots, lamps and other products sold across Mumbai are made in this 12-acre settlement. And Diwali is peak season for them. And households here are busy either packing, making or painting hundreds of diyas that will now make their way across the city of Mumbai. And after 2 years of COVID, this year's sales are key for them. But 40-year-old Hasmukh Narayan Tak, a third-generation potter, is a worried man. Diwali demand is picking up, but he has only managed to make 1,000 lamps against his usual 2,500 per day. That's because of unseasonal rainfall, which means his lamps don't dry quickly.
अभी दिन में तो पहले है ना 2,500-3 हज़ार हो जाता था, तो अभी है ना 1,000 होता है. बारिश के हिसाब से प्रॉब्लम हो गया. अभी 2 बजेगा ना 2:30 बजे तो बारिश चालू. कल भी पूरा माल बिक गया. ये साल दिवाली अच्छी रहती थी ना तो मजा आता था. बारिश नहीं रहती थी ना तो अच्छा रहता था.
It's not just the rains that are threatening to dampen sales. Rising raw material and labor costs are eating into margins, and the influx of machine-made diyas with intricate designs from other states is eaten on to the market for the traditional handmade ones.
दिए का तो भाव वही है, लेकिन हमको कलर का पैसा बढ़ा है, थैली का बढ़ा है, जो अंदर जो पैकिंग आता है उसका बढ़ा है. फिर ये जो वैक्स जो हम लोग जो पोरिंग करते हैं उसके अंदर जो मेल्ट करके उसका जो 90 रुपीज़ केजी था आज 135 रुपीज़ केजी है, और हमारा प्राइस वही है. ट्रांसपोर्ट बढ़ा है, यानी वो मिट्टी के ऊपर गया खर्चा. दिए का तो वही भाव है, 10 साल से 2 रुपये ही है, उसमें कुछ नहीं बढ़ा है. सब बाहर मार्केट दिया पेंटिंग वाला और सब रहे ना, वो चल रहा है. पर ये ना पहला इसका मार्केट बहुत पहले साल ये इसका मार्केट था, अभी इसका डाउन हो गया थोड़ा. अभी डिजाइन वाला क्या आ गया.
But there is still some hope. Several families started work as early as 8 months ago in anticipation of good demand this year, and footfalls are increasing as Diwali nears.
अभी का साल मार्केट तेज है, महंगा है, सब महंगा है. फूटा दिया सब महंगा, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन महंगा है, कलर महंगा है, लेकिन तो भी मार्केट तेज है. मतलब सब महंगा तो महंगा लेके बेच रहे हैं.
The potters of Kumbharwada may survive this year, but the light is flickering on the future. Many of the artisans, especially those from the younger generation, don't see pottery as a sustainable means of livelihood anymore. While this Diwali may bring the much-needed revival to their livelihoods, in the next few years, the sights of these drying pots and these smoke kilns may become a rare one, as the current generation of artisans does not want to pass on the art. Instead, they want to use all their earnings to educate their children to move them out of the settlement in the hope of more lucrative jobs. In Mumbai with camera person Milind Wagmare, Shilpa Ranipeta.
All right, and on that note, we'll wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thank you for watching. Stay with CNBC-TV18. The news continues.